What's up, YouTube? It's your boy JP's on the keys, and there's two easy about this video today. And today I'm coming with a different type of video. This is about Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell is like he has his degree from Harvard, so you obviously he definitely is an educated person. You know what I'm saying? And also he has some very unique views on like race relations. And when I say unique, I don't mean in a bad way. I say unique because it's not conventional. You feel what I'm saying? Not what you would expect from, you know what I'm saying? But this is where he talks to Trevor about slavery and reparations.
To your question, I think you have to understand what the word reparations means first. So reparations, you are repairing something that you have broken. You are paying for something that you were supposed to pay for. I'm not saying that there aren't people living in America today who are suffering and are going through pain and strife because of what's happening when it comes to machines taking jobs, factories becoming industrialized, etc. But reparations is a specific conversation about a specific time in America, and that is black people were slaves.
Article that got a lot of attention in The Atlantic a couple of years ago called The Case for Reparations by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Quote, "White supremacy is a force so fundamental to America that it is difficult to imagine the country without it. Reparations is the price we must pay to see ourselves squarely." Close quote. And Tom Sowell, who actually saw Jim Crow with his own eyes and experienced it, responds how?
First of all, before he responds, I just want to say, giving people money isn't going to solve anything. Because it's only going to create further division. Because let's say you start giving black people reparations. What's going to happen to everybody else? You feel what I'm saying? Then, if you're really going to give a group of people reparations, give the Native American people reparations for the land that was literally stolen from underneath their noses. All those bad contracts they signed that they gave up all that land to where the Native American population is literally like squeezed into little pockets of America. Like, where are the original Native Americans? That's another group you should be thinking about giving some reparations. Really the first group you should be talking about.
It would be nice to know his evidence for what he said, just to be old-fashioned about it. No, it was a rotten system. But I don't know how we get from that to reparations. I mean, what we see in the United States in terms of the bad things, you see all around the world. If you were to give reparations to everyone whose ancestors had been slaves, I suspect that you would have to give reparations to more than half the entire population of the globe. Slavery was...
That's what I'm saying. Slavery did not just affect African Americans. There's a lot of people overseas who being a slave, but nobody's saying nothing about that though. A lot of people in those Middle Eastern countries who are being enslaved right now. Like there was literally stuff going on in Palestine and Israel. Israel been attacking Palestine for years. Where is American media on that? You feel what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. Like, you trying to worry about getting reparations for slavery when we got way bigger fish to fry. You know what I'm saying? I'm not finna sit here and denounce slavery as bad because it was terrible. Like, you know what I'm saying? That was disgusting. No.
Not confined to one set of races. I suspect that most of the people who were either slaves or slave owners around the world were neither white nor black. I mean, this was a universal curse of the human species.
Africa, the Middle East, Asia, slavery took place everywhere.
And it continued elsewhere long after it was abolished in the Western countries.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've even heard people say like, oh, but there were some of the Irish who were indentured. Like, yeah, slavery. Look at the numbers, look at the time, look at the level of work. You could not work toward your freedom. For most black people in America, this was a time when you lived and died as a slave. And so that's what reparations is about.
The other thing, I have a slight sidebar in there on the history of slavery. The history of slavery existed all over the world for thousands of years among all sorts of people as far back as the history of the human species goes.
Look at the Romans, like back in the Roman times. Like, when you beat the enemies in war, you took slaves, or you called them prisoners of war, but they were really slaves. You took them. Like, all the stories that we've seen, that I've seen when I've done videos on this channel of, like, the Roman times, where if you beat your enemies, all the women and children would be sold into slavery, and that was just what was done. I feel like people tend to live in a box. Like, when people talk about politics, they talk about politics of where they're at. They're talking about what affects their country. Like, most people in the United States are not going to talk about Brexit because Brexit doesn't affect them. Just like a lot of people in the UK are not going to talk about the Democratic National Convention because 9 times out of 10, that's not going to affect you. You feel what I'm saying?
It's one of many evils that the left tries to localize, when in fact it is a universal evil. But more than that, as much as slavery is repudiated around the world today, prior to the 18th century, I know of no serious effort to abolish the institution anywhere. Anywhere.
Not in Africa, not in the Arabian
Not
world.
in Africa in the 21st century.
Right. It's still slavery in Africa, bro. You still think of all the civil wars that are going on in Africa right now, and they're enslaving the men, the women, and children of them. You feel what I'm saying?
Well, Adam Smith wrote in 1776 that the only place in the world where slavery had been abolished completely was Western Europe. And so this was
as late as the year this country was founded.
yes. And so the idea that this is something that the United States had that nobody else had, or the other countries that didn't have, it's been estimated that there are more slaves in India than in the entire Western Hemisphere. And that's before and after Columbus got here.
Right.
And so,
And India is like literally the second most populated country in the world. Think about it. India has 1 billion people in it. And just think about, if they have more slaves in the entire world, than the entire Western Hemisphere, think about it. That's Western Hemisphere. That's North America and South America. 2 whole continents. A country has more slaves than 2 whole continents combined.
so I hear what you're saying, but I think that's a completely separate conversation that needs to be had about the now. Because if you are not careful, what you then do is you combine everybody's suffering into the same bowl, and you make it seem like all injustices have the same weighting, and they don't. Just like crimes, theft isn't the same as murder. We don't try them the same way. And as much as there is a white person who's suffering today, I feel for anybody who's suffering, because I know what it's like to be poor. I know what it's like to suffer. I didn't come from a wealthy family. We struggled when I was growing up. But I also understand that there are levels of that suffering. And so sometimes white people, it does block a white person, because you go white privilege, and a person goes, I'm poor and I'm white, where's the privilege? White people are like, I wish I could activate my white privilege. I wish I could do it right now. White privilege, give me something. I get that. I get that. Trust me, I get it. Mm-hmm. It is hard to accept that you have benefits because of the color of your skin if you cannot see the benefits that you have.
The book that I'm writing now,
See, that attitude just kills me, bro. The moment you keep that narrative that, oh my God, he's better than me just because he's white, you're automatically just disqualifying yourself out of all, you know what I'm saying? You're automatically just saying, oh, regardless of what I do, I'll never be better than him just because he's white. Just think about how that sounds. Just think about how defeating that language is. Just think about how you're not trying to overcome nothing. You're just sitting here saying, well, I did all I can, but I can't do anything else because I'm a minority. You see what I'm saying? They literally just put that in your mind to tell you that you're less than, to make you even believe that you're less than. Like, you believe it. Who cares if a racist person believes that black people are inferior? If you as a black person believe that you're inferior, they've already won. You feel what I'm saying? The person who's talking doesn't matter. If the person who is the target of the abuse thinks that they're that, like if I think I'm terrible just because, not because somebody said so, because I myself think I'm terrible, then that's not good,
I discovered this is true not only in the United States, it's true in England, and the situation is wholly different. And yet, if you read the data, for example, from London, the educational tests and so forth, you see that there, immigrants from Africa pass this test they have. I'm talking about low-income people now. Nearly 60% of the time. Blacks from Caribbean, like 50%, so on. Native-born whites in the same low-income bracket pass this test 30% of the time. And it's the same thing. The foreign people come in, they haven't had generations of being steeped in the welfare state vision, the vision of grievances, victimology, and resentments, the idea that there are enemies out there dedicated to keeping you down. That's the message that's been pumped into the head of the white lower class in Britain, and that's the image that's been pumped into the black low-income people in the United States.
Facts, man. I couldn't have said it no better. Because they keep, if you keep pounding something in somebody's head, that's eventually going to become their whole ideology and how they think. You know, if you keep telling somebody that they're a certain way, they're going to eventually believe it.
And the results are the same in both cases.
But the thing I try to explain to a person is, think of it more like golf. Don't think of it as privilege, then think of it like a handicap, right? In golf, they acknowledge that you are in a position where you need so many advantages to be competitive in the game.
Is that we ought not to be doing this?
You know, there are various laws and policies that benefit one group at the expense of another. But I think affirmative action has the distinction of being one that it harms everybody, though in different ways. And so there's a lot of evidence that there are black kids who have all the qualifications to be successes in college, who nevertheless are failures because they are systematically mismatched with institutions whose standards they don't meet, even though they may meet the standards of 80 or 90% of the colleges in America. I remember first aware of this when I was teaching at Cornell, and I found that half the black students at Cornell were on some kind of academic probation. And so I went over to the administration building and looked up the SATs of these students. The average black student at Cornell at that time scored at the 75th percentile.
Which is pretty darn good.
Yes. And so that means that in most colleges in this country, they would have no trouble, and many of them would be on the dean's list. But at Cornell, the average liberal arts student at that time was in the 99th percentile. And when you're teaching the students like that, you teach at a pace that most people of any race cannot keep up with. And it was always complained that I was assigning all kinds of reading. But heck, I'm teaching kids who are in the top 1%. They can keep up with the reading that I'm assigning.
So Cornell was taking very talented black kids and spending 4 years teaching them to feel inadequate.
Yes, and succeeding at that.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like that kind of just places just like standards on these companies to where it's like they do stuff where it's not genuine. Or people come into spaces to where they're not going to feel welcomed. You know what I'm saying? If a company feels like they had to put you in just off principle or just because they had to get you in somewhere because they were made to do it, like I feel like they're not going to put enough effort into it.
Right? So what they say is you have a handicap of 15, so that means like you're going to be hitting from this tee and you get more chances to get the ball in because we understand the position you're in. And if you're a black person in America, from slavery, from day one.
Pondering all this, I noticed something, a column that you wrote, this is a couple of years ago, in which you rebutted Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times. And Kristof had ascribed the gaps between African Americans and whites in America, gaps in wealth, gaps in educational achievement, the usual gaps, to, and this is a quotation from Kristof, to the lingering effects of slavery, close quote.
Oh, yeah.
And here's Tom Sowell, quote, "If we wanted to be serious about evidence, we might compare where blacks stood 100 years after the end of slavery with where they stood after 30 years of the liberal welfare state. In other words, we could compare hard evidence on the legacy of slavery with hard evidence on the legacy of liberals," close quote. And
the number of injustices that have held black people back in America amount to an insurmountable, like you look at black people's freedom, you look at black people's land, just land alone. The amount of wealth you can acquire over time if you own land is exponential, because you have the land, you have the fact that you can borrow based on the land, you have the fact that you can use the money that you have borrowed to grow more wealth, you can use it to grow.
Man, this should be a conversation for Native Americans. This should be a conversation for Native Americans. Those are the ones that you should be having this conversation with, because those are the ones whose land was stolen. They stole the land. All the bad treaties with the treaties that were signed with the Indian chiefs, then they were snaked and their land was stolen. Look at what the Native American population in the United States has been reduced to. Like literal pockets of the West, pockets of little corners of this country, where this whole United States, it's pockets, little reservations, little certain reservations.
Grow your family's wealth. Just taking that away from black people alone.
Right. And also, if you think you've been wronged, your recourse might also be more likely to politics, to try to redress this whole redistribution.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Rather than hit the books, acquire the skills, get the job.
But the other thing too, one of my favorite statistic in there is that the poverty rate among blacks as a whole is 22%.
Mm-hmm.
Among whites as a whole is 11%, and among black married couples is 7.5%.
So
and it's been and black married couples have never had a poverty rate as high as 10% in any year since 1994.
All right. So to the cry, what is to be done? Tom Sowell answers:
it's been done.
Get an education, get married, have kids after you get married. That's sort of the answer, right?
Well, yes, and the things that work for other people tend to work pretty generally.
All right.
Is crippling them. And so you combine that with slavery, and then you look at Jim Crow laws. You didn't let black people in America live in the areas that they wanted to live in. They couldn't get loans from the banks that they wanted to get loans from. And then on top of that, when they started getting the loans from American banks were found to be giving them higher interest rates, when in fact they were the same risk as many of the other races that they were giving loans to. So when you combine all of those things, I think it's safe to say that black Americans have a conversation that they need to be having with the United States. Doesn't involve me, doesn't involve white people, it's like, yo, American government, meet the black people. That's it.
Man, that's never going to get done, because you can't, like, in the effort to please everyone, you please nobody. Because if you do something for one group, it's going to be another group coming out of nowhere talking about we need reparations. Because if you give black people reparations, then all of a sudden, watch, there's going to be an LGBT group talking about, think about all the stuff that the gay people have gone through by being discriminated and being killed for their sexual orientation. We need reparations too. Oh, well, think about the people who came over from certain countries. Oh, we had to fight to come over here. We came over here on a boat, and we were in some new land that we didn't know anything about. I think we should use some reparations too, because you know what I'm saying? One, you can't appease one group without another group wanting, you know what I'm saying?
Have that conversation.
In terms of political leaders, all the incentives politically are for black leaders to blame all problems in the black community on the larger society. And that enables them to take on the role of being the defender of the black community against enemies.
Of course, and they'll get behind y'all. All these people sitting there doing. Think about all these people, and you know a whole bunch of people who get online all day and just blame the white man for everything. Al Sharpton. Just think about this. These people been talking for 60 years. Somebody like Al Sharpton been talking since the 60s. He been talking. Talk. It's literally just talk. Get in front of people and talk. Get on TV and talk. Get in front of some camera and talk to people about what we should do, about what, you know what I'm saying, maybe, well, we need to do Has there been any money put forward to any institutions? Has there been money put forward to change curriculums for education purposes, to teach people about this stuff? Has there been any push for any type of really real reformation other than just, hey, let's just blame white people? Hey, we want reparations. Hey, we'll give you a George Floyd statue. Hey, we'll name a street after some famous civil rights leader, like,
which in turn creates the situation in which many blacks don't feel that anything that they do is going to help themselves unless it's done politically as a group. That there's no point. I mean, why would you, if you believe what they say, why would you want to knock yourself out in school knowing that the man is not going to let you get anywhere? Well,
man, that's what I'm saying. And it's just like, it's a harboring of low expectations, because you're gonna think the more they keep hammering these statistics about how black people are below the bar, black people, the economic gap between black people and white people, the economic, especially what they be saying about the gaps that black women be facing. Because then it just starts a low expectation thing. It's already just a disease of low expectations. So you're not going to perform to your best because you already assume that, oh my God, what? I'm not even supposed to be doing good. What? I'm not supposed to be doing good. Oh my God, why are you surprised I'm doing good on this? Why are your expectations so low of me? You feel what I'm saying? That's what somebody's thinking. So now you're gonna perform down to the standards that you feel like have been set. Oh, I can't do too good in college. I think something wrong. I can't do too good. You feel what I'm saying? The white people don't want me to do great. They don't want me to do it. The system don't want me to do it. The man. You feel what I'm saying?
One of the most pathetic things I heard in recent years was a young black man saying that, at one point he thought he would join the Air Force and become a pilot. And then he says he realized that the white man is not going to let a black man become a pilot. And he was saying this decades after the Tennessee Airmen had established their reputation in combat in Europe. But the hopelessness is one of the big products of the race industry.
It's a disease. And think about how he said the industry. Think about how he said industry. It's money behind this. It's money behind this. If you don't know, recently, some of these Black Lives Matter members got found out they was purchasing $6 million homes. They was purchasing $6 million homes. This race stuff makes money. Come on now. This division makes money. Why are you putting $6 million towards a home? You could have helped some people. Black Lives Matter, though. Come on now. Only your Black Lives Matters, apparently. But hey. You know what I'm saying? They make so much money off this, it's ridiculous. It's just, the fact that he said industry says a lot.
You have no chance. I remember giving a talk at Marquette, and at the end of the talk, among the questions that was asked, a young black man got up and he said, even though I am graduating from Marquette University, what hope is there for me? And having gone through college when I was in the 50s, I don't remember any blacks saying that in the 1950s, when there was a lot more obstacles to overcome than there were when this guy is graduating from Marquette.
That's true.
But you have to produce that kind of feeling in order to serve the interests of those in the race industry.
Race industry, bro.
Somewhere, watching this interview,
they're making money off
young
this.
Thomas Sowell. There's an African American who's smart and wants to do something with his life. It seems to me we've already got one piece of advice you'd offer to him is stay away from the racist industry. Stay away from the race hustlers. What advice would you give a young Thomas Sowell? How do you make something of yourself as an African American in America today?
The way anybody else would.
That's what I'm right. There's no specific way. Just do it like everybody else is doing. Like, Bro, oh my goodness.
You equip yourself with skills that people are willing to pay for.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. Listen, that's the best way to do anything. You have to set yourself up for anything. Like, people keep operating off this narrative that they automatically they at a disadvantage. You're already lowering yourself down. Oh, I can't do this because what opportunity is there for me as a black? You're graduating from Marquette. Marquette is a very good university. What hope is there for me as a black man from Mark? You feel what I'm saying? And and he said the race industry. That's one of the hardest statements I've ever heard. The race industry making money with division. They make so much money dividing people, especially black and white, because it's the easiest race. Those are the easiest two races to put against each other. The easiest two. You feel what I'm saying? All you gotta do is just show some racist image, just so a white dude beating a black guy, and all of a sudden, oh, race, you got race division already. You feel what I'm saying? Like, reparations not gonna solve nothing, because if one group gets it, dang, I dropped my phone. If one group gets it, other people are gonna want it. And my thing is, you really think these people are gonna be spending money to better their communities? You think everyone's gonna spend their money to bet? Some people are gonna buy material things. You feel what I'm saying? Some people are gonna buy things that don't have value. You feel what I'm saying? And we have to look back on, especially with me, I look back at what my grandparents did and thinking of living through Jim Crow. Like what we're going through now is really nothing compared to living through Jim Crow, bro. Like literally nothing. Like literally you couldn't go into a restaurant because you were black. You couldn't drink from the same water fountain because you were black. You feel me? Like you couldn't be in certain parts of town at certain times because you were black. I mean that's in pockets now, but I'm just saying this is widespread over the country. Like, you feel what I'm saying? That type of imagery, just painting that imagery that you just subhuman, automatically just hurting you. And it really is trauma. It's inherent trauma that we haven't let go of. Thinking that we're so below the whole everything that we don't want to achieve better. You know what I mean? That's all I gotta say. I feel like I talked way too long on this, but leave a like if you enjoyed, that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. So don't forget to turn on my post notifications. I appreciate y'all for the support. You know what I'm saying? Let me know what you think in the comments, because this is a unique topic. But thank you. Please be safe. I'm out. Peace.